Hi, this is Rick Anthony, and welcome to the Someone You Should Know podcast, the podcast that spotlights the stars of yesterday, today, and tomorrow. So sit back, relax, have a cold one, and get ready to meet someone you should know. My guest today is a musician from Central Oregon. Initially, he was a college football player, but an injury kept him from going pro. His musical journey has been more than 60 years in the making, and it's alive and well. Will you please welcome Dirk Van Houweling? Dirk, welcome aboard, man. Glad to have you on board today.
Thank you, Rick.
I understand that you started your thoughts about music when you saw the Beach Boys for the very first time at a local bowling alley at the age of 9. Can you take us back to those formative days and walk us through your musical beginnings?
Yes, I think I had just started taking guitar lessons. My mother had dictated to all her sons and her daughter that we all had to play one instrument for a while.
Oh.
So everybody in my family pretty much picked up the piano, but I picked up the guitar. And then I started listening more to music like the Beach Boys and whatnot. And then I found out they were coming to Ames, Iowa, of all places, to a bowling. And I was so into reverb and all those kind of different sounds that I remember that night very well. And I was dancing by myself in front of the Beach Boys. But I loved their music. It was so energetic about it that just gave me a rush, I guess.
Okay, so you started with the Beach Boys. A lot of musicians start off with the Beatles as far as, yeah, so that's good. That's good. That's very, very cool. No, you were a farm boy from Iowa, as you mentioned just a couple minutes ago. You put down the guitar, you picked up a football, and ended up playing under the legendary Coach Lou Holtz when he was at NC State. Go Wolfpack. Can you tell us about those years?
I started out with some big expectations to be, to play football the rest. And it was the first practice as a freshman, I cracked my neck.
Oh, no. Oh, Lord.
I played on that neck for 2 years. And then I was in a spring game my sophomore spring. So I would have been a junior that following fall. I was starting as a defensive end, and I made a tackle, and my whole right arm and shoulder kind of went numb. And I just kind of waddled off the field. And then I realized that I'd been kind of nursing this neck thing for a while. I went to a doctor who was the physician of the Redskins in Washington, D.C., because I wanted an independent analysis of my neck. And he told me, he said, I don't care if you've got a pro contract or whatever, you cannot play with that neck anymore. That was a big downer for me. I was, 20 years old or whatever. And so all my hopes and dreams as far as football kind of went away. And I had to make a transition somehow. And music was kind of there. I traveled around with a guitar in my hand, but I didn't really know how to play it that well, even though I'd taken lessons and I kind of knew how to play it. But I guess I was just looking for something else to fill that void and that passion that I had for football. And I think music took that place.
Very good. Yeah, it's been 50 plus, well, actually 60 plus years in the making, too. You raised a family. You got on with doing your things in life. And then here it is in your late 50s. You compiled an album called Get Up and Get Down, a track that we're going to feature here in a second. Now, here's the cool thing is the fiddle player on this particular track is actually one that we featured earlier this year when we had Cowboy John Grant on. It's Joe Boozer. This is a very fun song. And can you tell us the backstory about this and working with Joe?
You know, I didn't know that she would be a part of that song initially, but as I worked it through the studio, I kept thinking, I need to hear fiddle. Mm-hmm. And so I think that was the second time maybe I'd used Joe, but I knew that she was in the wing and we could get her. And she came in, and what I like to let musicians do that collaborate with me is show me or let me hear what you hear on this song. So I kind of let Joe have the reins and said, hey, go for it. And when she came up with her little jig that she does in that song, I told Lino, that's it. That's what I want. And so happy that it turned out the way it did. So I think her part in that song was big.
I do too. We're going to play that right now from 2017. This is Get Up and Get Down, the title cut from the album from today's podcast. Guest, Dirk Van Houweling.
Get up, get down, step in.
Great song right there from today's guest, Dirk Van Houweling, the title cut from the 2017 album called Get Up and Get Down. Now, after that album, you followed it up in 2020 with a release called Sweet Moments and Memories, another collaboration with a mutual friend of ours, Lino Alessio. Now, I read the credits on this, and you really and truly paid homage to Lino. You said, my producer, Lino Alessio, once again, Lino is a river of musical creativity. The instrumental intuition Lino brings to my songs is genius. I bring Lino the best cut I can, and he cooks it to perfection. My music rises to a higher level after arriving in Lino's kitchen. Our collaborations are great. Now, I have known Lino since 2006 when he was a guest on my initial national radio show and when he had Miami Jam out. Can you tell me your connection with Lino?
Yeah, that's a good one. When I realized that I liked writing music and I realized that, I'd like to somehow record it, I kind of messed with that myself, trying to do some of my own recording. But then when I went to a couple different studios, and in Bend, we pay about $75 an hour for a studio, and that's probably not very much. If you're in LA or something like that, I'm sure it's hundreds of dollars. But nonetheless, that was a little more than my budget allowed. And then somebody told me that someone a little less expensive was down the road, and I think that I got introduced. How did I get introduced to Lino? I may have just shown up at his studio after calling him and saying, I have a friend and his name is David Connor, and he and I still play music together. And he's on my first CD as a guitar player and also as a accompanying voice and vocals. And I said, I'd like to try and record a couple songs. So Lino said, well, come on in. Let's see how it goes. So I don't think I knew Lino very well at all until I walked into that studio. And the first thing that I noticed was Lino likes to wear a robe. And it was 10:30 in the morning. And I thought, oh, this is going to be great. He helped us through it. And his kind of, gentle direction, kind of pushing us in the right way, I think really helped us in that first CD. And I was really happy just to have a connection with someone who not only just recorded the music, but helped me produce the music. And the other studios, they did a great job of recording it, but I got no suggestions. I got no feedback hardly. And it was like I was working by myself. But when I go in and work with Lino, it's like both our songs, we look at it that way. And I love to let Lino go on his guitar because he is a fantastic guitar player.
Yes, he sincerely is.
There aren't very many out there that have guitar in the wing like he.
Yeah.
And so I feel like I'm blessed, and our relationship will go on because I got 12 more songs I want to record. So I know I'll be back in the studio.
Awesome. He told me that you two are both avid fishermen. He also said you're a very skilled elk hunter who lives off the meat old school style. You want to talk about your outdoor connections there?
Yeah, I've been, since I lived in Iowa, my brothers and my father and I used to hunt pheasants, and my grandfather would take me fishing. And I did a lot of stuff like that outdoors, and it became a part of me and still is. And when I moved out, I didn't move out west. The first time I came out west, I realized I want to move out here. And so when I did move to Oregon in 1975, I decided, I can big game hunt now. And I, at first, didn't know what I was doing because I'd never really done that. I'd been bird hunting and I'd been fishing and stuff like that. So this was new to me. And for the last, 30, 40 years, I've been cultivating that skill. And so I'm a bow hunter. I don't use a rifle. And I love the fact that I only every now and then get one. I just enjoy being in the woods, and I enjoy the game of getting close to an animal. And with a bow, of course, you've got to be pretty close. And I always want to make the best shot possible. So I've passed up a lot of marginal shots, and I've kind of kept my head straight in terms of if I'm going to shoot something, I don't want it to suffer. And it doesn't usually happen.
All right, very good, very good. We're going to go ahead and go on to another song here. It is the title cut for the 2022 album called Packy. The title cut it brings special attention to our brothers and sisters who are on the street. Everyone deserves a protected space we call home, is what you wrote in regards to the liner notes there. Can you elaborate?
Yes. I've become kind of a partner with Habitat for Humanity in Bend.
Great organization. I've worked with them.
Yeah,
I've
great
worked with them too.
organization.
Yeah.
I builder and a developer, and I had initially back in the 80s, I had 4.85 acres in Bend, and I I reserved an acre of that just because it was the best acre to build on, and everything else I did while I was younger, I thought I'm going to get all this hard stuff done. But I ended up not really having a plan for that acre, and I kept thinking, I need to do something other than just build apartments. And that's typically what I built, plus a daycare center in that 4.85 acres. But I had an acre left over. I found out the city of Bend had adopted a new code that allowed us to put 12 homes on 1 acre. And when I heard that, I said, that's what I want to do. So, yeah, Habitat for Humanity and I partnered up, and we have 11 families now living in homes that would not have been there if we had not donated the land and started that project. So, I have always felt a sense of what would it be like if I had no family and I was out on the street. There's nothing. I just think that must be the worst feeling. And I don't know what it feels like, but I've got a hunch that it's no fun at all. And especially if you have some sort of illness. I mean, what do you do? So my heart goes out to those folks. And I don't think we as communities have done enough. And obviously I want to push for more.
My kids learned a very important thing in life. They were probably in their teens at the time, and our church was asking volunteers to help out and feed the homeless on Christmas Eve. So my son, my daughter's friend, and my wife all went to help out at the center. And because of that, they have much more appreciation for the things that God has given them. So that is
Awesome.
it's very, very important that we do not forget about our brothers and sisters on the street. And I always keep a extra 5 or 10 or 20 in my wallet, and I don't care what they do with it.
I get it.
I'm not there to judge, as far as that goes. So
Right.
if I've got the extra, why not share it? The song is called
Right.
Packy from Dirk Van Houweling. Here it is right now on the Someone You Should Know podcast.
I'm out on the street, I'm on my own. I got nobody I can call, I'm all alone. I got no place, I got no home. My name is Packy, I live on your street. Chances are you've seen me, but we'll never meet. 'Cause I look down and you'll look away. tours of fighting for I don't know who. Nights waking up screaming, what did I do? You'll go home with loved ones all around, all hunkered down, hiding my nightmare on the ground. All I need is a safe space I can call my own. I got no place, I got no home. All I need is a safe space I can call my own. I got no place, I got no home. My name is Packy. Nowhere run to, nowhere to go. My name is Packy. What did I do to get here? My name is Packy. My truth every day.
The song is called Packy, the title cut from the 2022 album from my guest today, Dirk Van Houweling. Dirk, we always have a little fun with our musical guests. This particular segment, it's called Tales from the Road, and this particular segment is when you play out. You have some gigs that actually go just letter perfect, but then again, you have those gigs where things didn't go as planned. You wound up at the wrong place. Your vehicle breaks down. You forget an instrument or something like that. Care to share your tales from the road? Anything come to mind?
I'm trying to think of I guess it would be my biggest faux pas or whatever that I've had on the road. I guess I don't have a really bad thing to talk about. I have some things that I think other singer-songwriters would relate to in terms of audiences.
Okay, go ahead.
And yeah, and sometimes, I guess I have gotten to the point where I don't play out as much. And it's typically because when I'm in a bar setting or people are there for other reasons that hear me, I resonate with the people that are watching. And if they're not resonating with me, then I'm kind of sitting there thinking, well, why am I here? So I haven't had a really bad experience on stage. Of course, I've forgotten some lines. I've even sang the line twice in a row that, is like, I was trying to remember, did I already do that line? Yes, I already did that line. Well, it's too late because I did it the second time. And
you made it your own.
People were very generous. They were forgiving and generous. And, other than breaking strings and forgetting lyrics, I don't have any real bad tales.
Good.
But, I haven't been on the road. Someone like Lino has probably been on the road so much. He has 100 of these. But for me, it's mostly, I'm just local, so I don't get out that much. But I have gone to Portland and played some and stuff like that, but I don't have a lot of road trips to talk about.
What would you say is your high watermark to date? What would you say has been the best, like say, oh gosh, I can't believe I played that gig or that particular date or that particular benefit or whatever?
Just recently, a couple of weeks ago, I played at the Artichoke, and that's a community music venue in Portland. And that was an example of a venue that is strictly there for people to come, musicians. And it was a wonderful experience. There was 3 other musicians that played. We each had a half-hour slot, and the people that were there were so wonderful and generous. And I thought, that really was strengthening to me, and it made me want to go back out and do it again. I have not been performing that much during this whole COVID debacle, and I've just kind of stayed home and written, but I think that gave me the energy to continue getting out and trying to share my music. And the people were wonderful. The whole crowd was wonderful. And it was the first time, Rick, that I've ever had someone video my performance. So I got to watch myself, and I've never done that before. And it was hard to do, but I got to watch myself perform all my songs. And what I came away with was I need to be a little lighter up on stage. I was kind of heavy and kind of tight. And I thought, there's a lot I'm going to learn from this video. I need to get up there and lighten up a little bit.
Oh, that's very
So
good.
sometimes I take myself a little too seriously when I'm up on stage, I think, and I don't, kind of have some fun with it. So I'm going to try and change that. And so that was a good experience to learn that.
It's nice at our age we still can learn,
Yes, we still have things to learn. And like I said,
us Social Security folks can still do things.
Yeah, we do. We can do a lot of things, but that was the first for me. So I learned quite a bit from that. And I would say that was one of my better ones. I just enjoyed it.
Real good. How about some links to social media? Best way to reach you, especially to buy material or to check out some dates you got coming up?
I'm not a social media guy. I don't have a Facebook. I don't do that. And one of the reasons I sent you a little note that sometimes I don't always figure out this Zoom thing. So I'm not very techy.
No problem. And, you do have a website, though. What's the website?
I do have a website. So that my dvhmusic.com will take you to all 4 of my CDs, and you can download them for free.
Oh, wow.
So
okay.
I'm not looking for money. I just want to share. And I'm hoping that people get there and do that. And every now and then I get a message from someone, because the website protects my personal email, but it'll send me a message. And if I want to respond, I can send back with my personal email. And in any event, I've had a couple old friends from way back when look me up, and they went to that dvhmusic.com and they found out, oh man, he's playing music. And so I got an email from him, and it's kind of nice to reconnect that way, right?
Awesome. Very good. Very good. So once again, all the information will be found in the show notes. So anyone listening in their car right now, the information will be in the show notes. So drive safely. Okay. Closing thoughts. You'd like to mention? Anything else that we should know about you that we haven't already?
Well, I was thinking that you might ask what some of my influences might have been in the past, and music-wise. And of course, we started with the Beach Boys. But when I got to college, I really kind of focused on a lot of different music. Rick, it was the 60s and the 70s.
Right. The greatest music ever.
I think we've ever heard.
I know.
And whether it was Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, or it could have been Dickie Betts. It could have been anybody that was playing at that time. I just loved the music. I soaked it up.
Yeah, we were very blessed to be born at a time to really appreciate the music. It didn't really happen to me until years later. I was working at a classic rock station. I'm going, how did I miss that one?
But you got it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Now it's played continually and such. All right, very good. So growing up, we're very similar in age as far as that goes. Your music has been influenced by a lot of the stuff from the late 60s and 70s and such, and a lot of great music that we were blessed with. I'm going to finish the show with another song from the CD called Peck. It's called Floatin' and Sinkin'. This was the very first one that my wife Leslie and I were exposed to. And it kind of starts off with a little bit of a New Orleans vibe. I'm kind of thinking a little bit of Dr. John or maybe Leon Redbone. And then it goes into like a 60s dance, almost like Sea Cruise is what it reminded me of. What's the vibe and the story behind Floatin' and Sinkin'?
Well, that song was something that I had written, and I thought, I think this is a pretty good song, but I always felt like it was lacking something. And I'm glad you brought this song up, because the saxophone player, Andy Warr, plays on that song with me. I told him his saxophone gave that song wings. It was ready to fly, but it wasn't quite there yet. And when he finished his part, I said, oh, I am so thankful you did exactly what I thought I wanted, and I do want it. And so he ended up basically tying that up and making it a song. And Andy Warr should get a lot of credit for that song, because I think the saxophone is so fun on it,
I agree.
He knew right away when he heard my sax, he says, I know right away what I'm going to do with that. And then when he showed what he was doing, oh my gosh. That's it.
That's what this is all about. There are so many talented musicians out there who are just waiting for moments like that. Like Andy is just waiting to be a part of something else to bring someone else's music to life and such. And Lino the same way. It's just amazing, and that's why I love doing this show. And I thank you so much for taking the time today, Dirk, from out there in Oregon and spending some time with us. And thanks so much for being a guest on the Someone You Should Know podcast, man. We do appreciate it.
Rick, I appreciate you being interested in me. That's really cool. Thank you very much.
I'm trying to keep my head up high. I'm trying to get some air. I know we're both finding our way, trying to see what's there. I know there's always something left, something we can share. Whether floating or sinking, I'm in the water with you. When we're floating, I'm smiling. I'm swimming around like a fool. Sometimes when we're sinking, I'm taking hold my breath for you. Whether floating or sinking, I know just what I will do. I'll be close beside you. I'll be holding your hand. Whether floating or sinking, I wanna be your man. Whether floating or sinking, I'm in the water with you. I'm holding your hand now. I'm as close as I can be. If we don't touch bottom, I'll hold you up like I can. Whether floating or sinking, I'm gonna step up and stand. Now that we're together, I'm holding your hand. Whether floating or sinking, I wanna be your man. Whether floating or sinking, I'm in the water with you. I wanna keep on floating, no matter what we do. When we touch bottom, I'm walking out with you. I wanna keep on smiling, no matter what we do. Now that we're together, I'm holding your hand. Whether floating or sinking, I wanna be your man. I wanna be your man. I wanna be your man.
Hi, this is Rick Anthony, thanking you again for listening to this episode of Someone You Should Know. Now, if you're an aspiring musician or an established musician that's looking for a little exposure, I invite you to drop us a line at someoneyoushouldknowpodcast@gmail.com. That's someoneyoushouldknowpodcast@gmail.com. Also, I invite you to tell a friend about the Someone You Should Know podcast. I thank you for tuning in this time, and I invite you to check us out next time on the Someone You Should Know podcast, because you never know who's going to show up. Until next time, remember, God loves you, and so do I.